The Galactic Confederacy had watched Earth for 200 years. They sent probes. They intercepted radio signals. They studied humans from the shadows of distant moons. Every report said the same thing. Humans were young. Humans were weak. Humans talked too much and fought too little. They were harmless. When humanity finally built ships that could travel faster than light in the year 2247, the Confederacy welcomed them with open arms. They gave Earth a small seat at the great table where dozens of alien races made decisions about the galaxy. Humans accepted this seat with smiles and thank you notes. They shook hands with creatures that had claws. They bowed to beings made of living crystal. They were polite to everyone, even the races that looked down on them. Admiral Jack Morrison remembered those early days. He had been a young officer when the first alien ship landed on Earth. He remembered the excitement, the fear, the hope that humanity was no longer alone in the universe. Now he was 63 years old, his hair more gray than brown, and he stood before the United Earth Council with another report of death. The room was quiet. 12 council members sat around a curved table made of dark wood. Screens on the walls showed maps of human space. With red dots marking the places where people had died, Jack cleared his throat. New Kansas Colony was attacked 3 days ago. The Vectari Empire sent 5 warships. They destroyed the main settlement and 2 farming communities. 30,000 people are dead. There were no survivors. Councilwoman Lisa Grant closed her eyes for a moment. She was 55 with short silver hair and a face that had seen too many of these reports. "This is the 7th attack in 2 years," she said. "What is the Confederacy doing about it?" "Nothing," Jack replied. "I spoke with Ambassador Morath yesterday. He expressed sympathy. He promised to bring the matter before the council. But we all know what will happen. The Vectari are too important to the Confederacy. They have the largest military fleet in this sector. The Confederacy needs them to guard against threats from the Outer Rim." Councilman Danny Webb slammed his hand on the table. He was the youngest member of the council at 42, with dark skin and eyes that burned with anger. "So they just let the Vectari kill our people? They do nothing while our colonies burn. They see us as expendable," Jack said. "We are the newest members of the Confederacy. We have no powerful allies. We have no leverage. In their eyes, we are children who should be grateful for whatever protection we receive." Lisa opened her eyes. "How many people have we lost in these attacks?" Total. Jack looked at his tablet. 147,000. Across 7 colonies, men, women, and children. Farmers, teachers, doctors, people who left Earth to build new lives among the stars. The room was silent. On the screens, the red dots seemed to glow brighter. Councilwoman Maria Santos spoke for the first time. She was 60, with long gray hair tied back in a simple braid. She had been a soldier before she became a politician, and her voice still carried the weight of command. "We cannot keep accepting this. Our people are dying. The galaxy thinks we are weak. Perhaps it is time to show them otherwise and start a war," asked Councilman Henry Liu. He was a small man with glasses and nervous hands. "The Vectari have thousands of ships. We have a few hundred. They would crush us." Maria smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Would they? The room grew very still. Everyone on the council knew the secret. It was the biggest secret in human history, bigger than any government conspiracy or classified project. For 200 years, while humanity smiled and bowed and accepted its place at the bottom of the galactic ladder, they had also been building. Hidden factories on distant moons produced weapons that no alien had ever seen. Secret shipyards constructed fleets that never appeared on any official record. Scientists worked in underground labs, developing technology that made Confederacy weapons look like children's toys. Humanity had learned a lesson long ago, the bloody centuries before they reached the stars. Peace was beautiful, but peace without strength was just another word for victim. So they prepared for war, while praying they would never need to fight one. Jack looked at the council members. "The question is not whether we can fight. The question is whether we should. Once we reveal what we have, there is no going back." The galaxy will see us differently. They may fear us. They may try to destroy us before we become too powerful. Are we ready for that? Lisa stood and walked to the window. The city of Geneva spread out below, lights twinkling in the evening darkness. Above, the stars were coming out, the same stars where her people were dying. I think about my grandfather sometimes, she said softly. He used to tell me stories about the old wars, the ones humans fought against each other before we united. He said the worst thing about those wars was not the fighting. It was the years of being polite while evil men did evil things. The years of hoping that if we just talked enough, if we just compromised enough, the bad people would stop being bad. She turned to face the council. They never stopped. They only stopped when someone made them stop. When someone stood up and said enough, when someone showed them that kindness was not weakness and patience was not fear. Danny leaned forward. So what are you saying? We show the galaxy what we really are? Lisa shook her head. Not yet. We give them one more chance. We send a message to the Vectori Emperor. We tell him that the attacks must stop. We tell him this is his last warning. He will laugh at us, Henry said. He has laughed at every warning we have sent, yes, Lisa agreed. He probably will. And then we will stop being polite. She looked at Jack. Admiral, I want you to prepare our real fleet. Not the ships we show the Confederacy. The other ones. The ones we built for a day like this. I pray we will never use them. But if the Vectari attack one more colony, one more station, kill one more human being, I want to be ready. Jack nodded slowly. It will take 3 months to bring everything online. We have been quiet for a long time. Waking up will take some effort. Then start now. The meeting ended. The council members left one by one, their faces heavy with the weight of what they had discussed. Only Lisa remained, standing at the window, watching the stars. Somewhere out there. The Vectari were planning their next attack. They were choosing their next target, laughing about how easy it was to kill humans. They had no idea that everything was about to change. Lisa whispered to the darkness. We tried so hard to be good. We really did. But you just would not let us. A single tear rolled down her cheek. Not for herself. Not for fear. But for the galaxy that had no idea what it had awakened. The polite species was about to stop being polite. And heaven help anyone who stood in their way. The Vectari did not listen. They never listened. 3 weeks after the United Earth Council sent their final warning, 5 Vectari warships dropped out of hyperspace above the colony of Haven's Rest. Commander. Kethra stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the small human world grow larger on his view screen. He was tall for a Vectari, with dark green scales and yellow eyes that missed nothing. Scars covered his arms from decades of combat. He had killed humans before. He enjoyed it. Begin the bombardment, he ordered. Target the power stations first, then the communication towers. I want them blind and helpless before we land. His second-in-command, a younger Vectari named Drell, hesitated. Commander, the humans sent another warning. They said this was their last one. Perhaps we should be careful, Kethra laughed. The sound was harsh and ugly. The humans send warnings like other species breathe. They talk and talk but never do anything. In 200 years, they have never fired a single shot in anger. They are cowards, Drell. Prey animals pretending to be predators. Now, follow my orders. The bombardment began. Bright beams of energy lanced down from the warships, striking the colony below. Buildings exploded. Fire spread. People ran screaming through the streets. Looking for shelter that did not exist, Kethra watched it all with a smile. Then his sensor officer spoke, and the smile faded. Commander, we are detecting a ship. A single vessel, approaching from the far side of the planet. Small frigate class. Human design? 1 ship? Kethra snorted. They send 1 ship against 5 warships. These creatures are even more foolish than I thought. Destroy it, Commander. They are hailing us. Put them through. Let me hear their begging before they die. The view screen flickered. A human male appeared. He looked ordinary, middle-aged with gray hair at his temples and blue eyes that seemed very calm for a man about to die. His uniform was simple, dark blue with a name tag that read Pete Harrison. "Vectari Fleet," the human said. "This is Captain Pete Harrison of the Earth vessel Honest Broker. You are attacking a protected human colony. This is a violation of Confederacy law and basic decency. You have 30 seconds to cease fire and withdraw, or you will face the consequences." Kethra leaned back in his command chair. "Consequences? What consequences?" "You have one tiny ship. I have 5 warships. Your colony is already burning. What exactly do you think you can do?" The human, this Pete Harrison, did not blink. His voice remained calm and steady. "The warnings you received before came from our diplomatic corps. They were trained to be polite. They were trained to give you every possible chance to do the right thing. I am not a diplomat, Commander. I am something else entirely, and what are you?" "I am what happens when the diplomats fail." Pete leaned closer to the camera. 20 seconds. Kethra felt something strange. A cold feeling in his stomach that he had not experienced in many years. Fear. No. Impossible. He was Vectari. He did not fear humans. "You're bluffing," he said. "Your species does not fight. Everyone knows this. You smile, you bow, you accept whatever scraps the galaxy throws at you. You are nothing." Pete shook his head slowly. "You see what we wanted you to see? You know what we wanted you to know? For 200 years we have been playing a role. Wearing a mask, pretending to be something we are not. Do you want to know what we really are, Commander?" 10 seconds, Kethra said. "Then I destroy your ship and finish killing your people." Pete smiled. It was not a warm smile. "Then let me show you." The transmission ended. Kethra opened his mouth to give the order to fire. But before the words left his lips, something happened to the human ship. Panels slid away from its hull. Hidden compartments opened. Weapons emerged from places where weapons should not exist. The tiny frigate that should have been helpless suddenly bristled with more firepower than all 5 Vectari warships combined. "Commander," the sensor officer said, his voice shaking, "I am reading energy signatures that do not match anything in our database. Their weapons are charging. Power levels are off the scale." "That is impossible," Kethra whispered. "No human ship has that kind of technology. No ship in the Confederacy has that technology." The Honest Broker fired. The beam that struck Kethra's flagship was blue-white and brighter than a star. It cut through the ship's shields like they were not there. It melted through the hull like a hot knife through soft butter. The entire vessel, 300 meters of advanced Vectari engineering, vaporized in less than 3 seconds. Kethra died so fast he did not even have time to scream. The other 4 warships tried to run. They turned and accelerated toward the hyperspace jump point, desperate to escape. But the Honest Broker was faster. Much faster. It appeared beside them like a ghost, firing again and again. Each shot was perfect. Each shot was fatal. In less than 5 minutes, all 5 Vectari warships were gone. There was no wreckage. There were no survivors. There was nothing but empty space and the gentle glow of distant stars. Pete Harrison stood on the bridge of his ship and looked at the destruction he had caused. His face showed no joy, no satisfaction, only a deep and terrible sadness. "Send a message to Earth," he told his communications officer. "Tell them it is done. The mask has slipped. The galaxy will know soon." On the planet below, the survivors of Haven's Rest emerged from their shelters. They looked up at the sky where the Vectari ships had been. They saw nothing but peaceful darkness. Some of them cried. Some of them laughed. Most of them simply stood in silence, trying to understand what had just happened. A little girl tugged on her mother's hand. "Mommy, what happened to the bad aliens?" Her mother looked up at the stars. "Someone stopped them, sweetheart. Someone finally stopped them." 3 days later, the news reached Earth. The council met in emergency session. Lisa Grant listened to the report with a heavy heart. She had hoped this day would never come. She had prayed that the Vectari would listen, would stop, would give humanity no reason to reveal itself, but they had not listened. And now, everything would change. Danny Webb broke the silence. It is done then. They know we can fight. They know we destroyed one fleet, Lisa corrected. They do not know the rest. Not yet. Maria Santos folded her hands on the table. How long before the Vectari send more ships? How long before the Confederacy demands answers? Days, Jack Morrison said. Maybe ours. The Vectari will want revenge. The Confederacy will want explanations. We need to be ready for both, Lisa nodded slowly. Then we prepare. We show them only what we must. We keep the rest hidden for as long as possible. But if they push us, if they force our hand, we show them everything. She looked around the table at her fellow council members. These men and women who had carried such a heavy secret for so long. We tried to be good, she said softly. We really tried. Remember that, when history judges us, we gave them every chance. Outside the window, the sun was setting over Geneva. Shadows stretched across the ancient city, and somewhere among the stars, a young species was finally waking up. The galaxy had poked the sleeping giant. Now it would learn why that was a mistake. The Great Hall of the Galactic Confederacy had seen many dramatic moments in its 10,000-year history. Wars had been declared in this chamber. Peace treaties had been signed. Entire species had risen and fallen while the ancient stone walls watched in silence. But no one in the hall had ever seen anything like this. Ambassador Greg Palmer stood alone in the center of the floor. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a calm face that showed no fear. Around him, in rising tiers of seats that reached up toward a domed ceiling painted with stars, sat representatives from 73 alien species. Some were creatures of flesh and blood, with scales or fur or skin of strange colors. Others were beings of energy, their forms flickering and shifting like flames. A few were machines, artificial minds housed in metal, bodies that clicked and whirred as they processed information. Of them were staring at Greg with expressions that ranged from shock to anger to fear. High. Chancellor Morath sat on a throne of black crystal at the highest point of the chamber. He was ancient, even by the standards of his long-lived species. His skin was pale blue and stretched tight over bones that seemed too delicate to support his weight. His eyes were white, without pupils, but they missed nothing. Ambassador Palmer, Morath said, his voice echoing through the vast space. You have been summoned to explain the actions of your species. 5 days ago, a human vessel destroyed 5 Vectari warships in the Haven's Rest system. The ships were vaporized in minutes. There were no survivors. How do you explain this? Greg looked up at the Chancellor with steady eyes. The Vectari were attacking our colony, Chancellor. They were killing our people. We defended ourselves. With weapons that should not exist, shouted the Thren representative. The Thren were reptilian creatures, covered in bright red scales. This one was practically vibrating with anger. Your ship used technology far beyond anything registered in your fleet specifications. You have been hiding weapons. This is a direct violation of Confederacy Charter. We have never violated the Charter, Greg replied calmly. The Charter requires member species to register military vessels with the Confederacy. It does not say, we must reveal every defensive capability on those vessels. Do not play word games with us, the Thren hissed. You destroyed 5 advanced warships with a single frigate. That requires weapons that have never been seen in this galaxy. Where did you get them? Who gave them to you? Greg smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible, but it made several of the nearest delegates shift uncomfortably in their seats. No one gave us anything, he said. We built them ourselves. The chamber erupted. Dozens of alien voices shouted at once. Some demanded answers. Some called Greg a liar. A few simply made sounds of disbelief, unable to accept what they were hearing. Morath raised one thin hand. Slowly, the noise died down, explained the Chancellor said. Humanity joined the Confederacy 183 years ago. At that time, you had just discovered faster-than-light travel. Your technology was primitive. Your military was insignificant. Are you claiming that in less than 2 centuries, you have developed weapons superior to species that have been traveling the stars for millennia? Greg nodded. Yes, more shouting. More chaos. Morith had to raise his hand 3 times before the chamber fell silent again. This is impossible, said a delegate from the Keth Collective. A hive mind that spoke through thousands of small, insect-like creatures. We have observed your species closely. Your scientific publications are public. Your industrial capacity is well documented. You could not have hidden development on this scale. And yet we did. Greg reached into his pocket and removed a small device. He pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared in the air above his head. It showed a map of human space, hundreds of star systems spread across one corner of the galaxy. Every colony you see here has hidden defensive platforms. Every station has concealed weapons. Every ship in our fleet carries technology we have never revealed to the Confederacy. I pressed another button. The map changed, showing lines connecting the human systems. Not trade routes. Not communication networks. Something else entirely. We have faster-than-light communication that does not rely on hyperspace relays. We have energy shields that your best weapons cannot penetrate. We have power sources that make your reactors look like campfires. He looked around the chamber. We have been hiding in plain sight for 200 years, building, preparing, hoping we would never need to use any of it. The Vectari delegate stood. He was a senior official from their empire, an older male with faded scales and a permanent scowl. This is a declaration of war. You have attacked our ships. You have revealed hidden weapons. You are clearly planning to conquer the galaxy. Greg turned to face him. For a moment, his calm mask slipped, and something cold and hard showed in his eyes. Your empire has attacked our colonies 7 times in 2 years. You have killed 147,000 of our people. Men, women, children. Families who wanted nothing but peaceful lives among the stars. His voice was soft, but it carried to every corner of the chamber. We sent warnings. We asked you to stop. We begged the Confederacy to intervene. And what happened?
Nothing.
You kept killing. The Confederacy kept ignoring. So yes, we defended ourselves. And we will keep defending ourselves until every Vectari ship learns to stay away from our space. The Vectari delegate sat down. He looked pale, his scales losing their color. Morith leaned forward on his throne. Ambassador, I must ask you directly. What are humanity's intentions? You have revealed great power. How do you plan to use it? Greg turned back to face the Chancellor. His expression softened, just slightly. We do not want to rule the galaxy, he said. We do not want to conquer anyone. We never did. When we joined the Confederacy, we came with genuine hope. We thought we had found a community of civilized beings who valued peace and cooperation. We wanted to be part of that community. He paused, looking around at the assembled delegates. But you put us at the bottom of your hierarchy? You looked down on us. You let the Vectari raid our worlds because we were not important enough to protect. And so we realized something. We realized that in this galaxy, the only species that will protect humans is humanity itself. Greg pressed another button on his device. The holographic display changed again, showing something new. Ships, human ships. But not the small, modest vessels that the Confederacy knew. These were massive, bristling with weapons, radiating power. We have a fleet of 15,000 warships, Greg said quietly. Not the 300 we reported to the Confederacy. 15,000. Any one of them could destroy a Vectari dreadnought without breaking a sweat. Combined, they could probably conquer the entire Confederacy in a matter of months. The chamber was absolutely silent. Several delegates looked like they might faint. But we will not do that, Greg continued, because that is not who we are. We built these weapons for defense, not conquest. We hid them because we hoped we would never need them. We wanted to be the civilized species you thought we were. We tried so hard to wear that mask. He turned off the holographic display and put the device back in his pocket. The mask is off now. You have seen what we are capable of. But I want you to understand something very important. We are not your enemy. We are not a threat. We only become dangerous when someone threatens our people. Leave us alone, and we will leave you alone. Attack us, and we will defend ourselves with everything we have. Greg looked up at Moreth one last time. This is not a declaration of war, Chancellor. This is a statement of fact. Humanity is done pretending to be weak. We are done accepting attacks on our people. The Vectari have one chance to make peace with us. If they refuse, if they attack us again, there will be no more warnings. He turned and walked toward the exit. Only endings. The chamber remained silent long after he was gone. The delegates looked at each other, seeing the same fear reflected in alien eyes. For 200 years, they had believed humanity was harmless. Now they knew the truth. The polite species had claws, and it had just shown them to the galaxy. The Vectari Emperor did not believe in warnings. He did not believe in diplomacy or patience or the possibility that he might be wrong. He had ruled his empire for 60 years by crushing anyone who stood against him. And now, some primitive species from a backwater planet had dared to embarrass him in front of the entire galaxy. The destruction of the 5 warships at Haven's Rest had been humiliating enough, but the human ambassador's speech to the Confederacy was unforgivable. The whole galaxy had heard it. The whole galaxy knew that humans had hidden power, and the whole galaxy was watching to see what the Vectari would do. There was only one answer. In the great shipyards of the Vectari homeworld, 2,000 warships assembled. Dreadnoughts, battle cruisers, destroyers, carriers filled with fighter craft. It was the largest fleet the Empire had ever gathered. Millions of soldiers stood ready to conquer. Thousands of generals and admirals studied maps of human space. The Emperor himself would lead the attack from his golden flagship, the Pride of Victory. They would go to Earth. They would destroy the human homeworld. They would teach the galaxy what happened to species that challenged the Vectari Empire. On Earth, the response was surprisingly calm. Admiral Jack Morrison stood in the command center, a vast underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. Screens covered every wall, showing ship positions, weapon status, defense platforms, and 100 other pieces of information. Hundreds of officers sat at consoles. Monitoring the approaching enemy fleet, Captain Kate Sullivan stood beside him, her red hair tied back in a practical braid. She had been his second-in-command for 15 years, through good times and bad. She was the only person who could tell him the truth, even when he did not want to hear it. 2,000 ships, she said, coming right at us. No subtlety, no strategy. Just a hammer aimed at our head. The Vectari have always believed in overwhelming force, Jack replied. They think numbers win battles. They have never fought an enemy who is actually ready for them. Are we ready? Jack allowed himself a small smile. Kate, we have been ready for 200 years. We were ready before I was born. My grandfather worked in the shipyards that built our first secret fleet. My grandmother designed the weapons we are about to use. Every generation of humanity has prepared for this moment, hoping it would never come. But knowing it probably would. He pointed to one of the screens, which showed the space around Earth. It looked empty, peaceful, just a blue-green planet surrounded by darkness. They see nothing. Their sensors show a defenseless world with a few hundred small ships. They think they are about to win an easy victory. He shook his head. They have no idea. Kate nodded slowly. How do you want to handle it? I want to give them one last chance. Not because I think they will take it, but because I want the galaxy to see that we tried, that we gave them every opportunity to turn back, that whatever happens next is their choice, not ours. And if they do not turn back? Jack's expression hardened. Then we show them what happens when you threaten our home. 6 hours later, the Vectari fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. The Emperor stood on the bridge of his flagship, surrounded by his most loyal admirals. On the view screen, Earth was a tiny blue dot. In the distance, insignificant, helpless. Begin the advance, the Emperor commanded. Destroy their orbital stations first. Then bombard the planet until they surrender. I want their leaders brought to me in chains. Before his admirals could acknowledge the order, a new signal appeared on their sensors. A human voice filled the bridge. Tari Fleet. This is Admiral Jack Morrison of the United Earth Defense Force. You are approaching our homeworld with hostile intent. This is your final warning. Turn back now, and there will be no conflict. Continue your approach, and you will be destroyed. The choice is yours. The Emperor laughed. Final warning. How many final warnings have we received from these creatures? They talk and talk, but never act. Ignore this foolish human. Continue the advance. Emperor, one of his sensor officers said nervously, we are detecting some unusual readings. Energy signatures around the planet? They do not match anything in our database. Probably more of their hidden weapons. It does not matter. We have 2,000 ships. They cannot have enough firepower to stop us all. The fleet advanced. Earth grew larger on their view screens. The Emperor could see the continents now, the blue oceans, the white clouds. Soon this world would burn. Then the space around Earth came alive. Defense platforms decloaked by the thousands. They had been hidden in plain sight, invisible to Vectari sensors, waiting. Massive stations bristling with weapons materialized in orbit. And the ships, oh, the ships. Warships appeared from nowhere, from behind moons, from inside asteroid fields, from patches of empty space that had seemed completely vacant. Not hundreds. Thousands. Kate Sullivan read the final count from her console. 11,432 combat vessels now active in the defense grid. All weapons powered and ready.
Nodded.
Open a broadcast channel. I want the whole galaxy to hear this. The transmission began. Jack's face appeared on screens throughout the Confederacy. On worlds that had never heard of Earth, on ships traveling between distant stars. Everyone was watching. People of the galaxy, Jack said. I am Admiral Jack Morrison of Earth. The Vectari Empire has sent 2,000 warships to attack our homeworld. They believe we are helpless. They believe we cannot fight. I am broadcasting this message so that everyone can see what happens next. He paused, letting the words sink in. For 200 years, humanity has hidden its true strength. We did this because we valued peace. We did this because we hoped that if we were patient enough, kind enough, the galaxy would leave us alone. We were wrong. And now the Vectari will learn what we really are. Behind him, the screen showed Earth's defense grid in full display. The alien viewers gasped at what they saw. Some cheered. Most simply stared in disbelief. To the Vectari Emperor, Jack continued. Your fleet is outnumbered almost 6-1. Your weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Your sensors cannot track our ships. You have exactly 60 seconds to order your forces to stand down, or they will be destroyed. This is not a threat. This is simple mathematics. The Emperor's face appeared on a split screen, purple with rage. You dare to threaten me? I am the ruler of the greatest military power in this sector. My empire has conquered 100 worlds. Your pathetic species will be enslaved or exterminated. There will be no mercy. Jack sighed. Very well. You have made your choice, he nodded to Kate, who pressed a button on her console. The battle lasted 47 minutes. Humanity's weapons were 300 years more advanced than anything the Vectari possessed. Their ships were faster, tougher, and carried firepower that seemed almost magical. The first wave of fire from Earth's defense platforms destroyed 400 Vectari ships in less than 30 seconds. The survivors tried to flee, but human ships pursued them, cutting off escape routes, herding them into killing zones. The Emperor's flagship was among the last to fall. Jack had ordered it specifically targeted, making sure the ruler who had caused so much death would face justice. The pride of victory, the golden symbol of Vectari power, exploded in a flash of light that was visible from Earth's surface. When it was over, there were no survivors. 2,000 Vectari ships, millions of soldiers, the cream of their military, all gone in less than an hour. Kate Sullivan looked at the aftermath on her screens. Her face was pale. It is done. They are all destroyed. Jack did not celebrate. He did not smile. He simply looked at the debris field that had been the Vectari fleet and felt a deep sadness. Send a message to the Confederacy, he said quietly. Tell them what happened. Tell them we gave the Vectari every chance to turn back. Tell them we take no pleasure in this victory." He turned away from the screens. "And tell them this is what happens when you threaten our home. We are not the weak species they thought we were. We are something else entirely. Something that should never be provoked." On Earth, people emerged from shelters to look up at the night sky. They could see flashes of light in the distance, the last echoes of the battle. Some wept. Some celebrated. Most simply stood in silence, knowing that everything had changed. Humanity had shown its true face to the galaxy, and the galaxy would never forget. 6 months passed after the Battle of Earth. 6 months of shock, of whispered conversations in diplomatic halls, of species looking at each other with new eyes. The galaxy had changed, and everyone knew it. The Vectari Empire collapsed within weeks of their fleet's destruction. Without the Emperor, without their military, the conquered worlds rose up in rebellion. Planets that had suffered under Vectari rule for centuries suddenly found the strength to fight back. The empire that had terrorized half a sector simply fell apart, like a building made of sand washed away by a sudden tide. The Galactic Confederacy gathered in emergency session after emergency session. Delegates argued endlessly about what to do, what to say, how to respond to this new reality. Some wanted to build alliances against humanity. Others wanted to surrender immediately and beg for mercy. Most simply did not know what to think. High Chancellor Morath finally called a special assembly. Every species in the Confederacy was required to send their highest representatives. The Great Hall was packed, every seat filled. With thousands more watching on screens throughout the galaxy, the human delegation arrived last. They walked in silence through the great doors, past rows of alien faces that stared at them with a mixture of fear and respect. Ambassador Greg Palmer led the group. Beside him walked Admiral Jack Morrison, now the most famous military commander in known space. Behind them came Secretary of Defense Amy Chen and a young officer named Ryan Torres, who had commanded one of the orbital platforms during the battle. They took their seats at the front of the chamber, in the place reserved for major powers. No one objected. Morath rose from his throne, moving slowly, looking older than he had 6 months ago. The weight of recent events seemed to press down on his thin shoulders. "We have gathered here today to discuss the future," the Chancellor said. "The events of recent months have shown us that the galaxy we thought we knew was built on false assumptions. We believed humanity was a minor species, weak and harmless. We were wrong." He turned to face the human delegation. "On behalf of the Galactic Confederacy, I offer humanity our formal apology. We failed to protect your colonies when they were attacked. We ignored your warnings. We treated you as lesser beings when you deserved respect. This was wrong, and we acknowledge it." The chamber was silent. This was unprecedented. In 10,000 years, the Confederacy had never apologized to anyone. Morath continued. "We offer reparations to the families of those killed in the Vectari attacks. We offer humanity a permanent seat on the High Council, with full voting rights and veto power. And we offer our assurance that no Confederacy member will ever attack human space again." Greg Palmer stood slowly. He looked around the chamber at the assembled aliens, all these species that had looked down on humanity for so long. His face showed no triumph, no satisfaction, only a calm determination. "Accept your apology," Greg said. "And we accept your offers. But there are some things I want to make clear, so there is no misunderstanding about what has happened and what it means." He stepped forward into the center of the floor, where all eyes could see him. "We did not reveal our strength because we wanted to dominate the galaxy. We did not build our weapons to conquer or enslave. We built them because we learned something long ago. In the dark centuries before we reached the stars." He paused, letting his words settle over the silent assembly. "We learned that peace without strength is just another word for victim. We learned that talking only works when both sides are willing to listen. We learned that some people, some species, will only stop hurting others when someone forces them to stop." Greg turned in a slow circle, meeting alien eyes one by one. "For 200 years we tried to be what you thought we were. We smiled. We bowed. We accepted insults and attacks because we believed that civilized beings should not resort to violence. We wanted so badly to be the peaceful species you expected us to be. His voice hardened. But you kept pushing. You kept hurting our people. You kept mistaking our patience for weakness and our kindness for cowardice. And eventually, you pushed too hard. He spread his hands. So now you see what we really are. We are the species that fought ourselves for 10,000 years before we learned to cooperate. We are the species that split the atom and then chose not to destroy ourselves with it. We are the species that buried our capacity for violence because we knew how terrible it was. We are not gentle by nature. We are gentle by choice. And that is a very different thing. Ryan Torres stood and walked to stand beside Greg. He was young, barely 30, but his eyes held the weight of someone who had seen too much too soon. He had watched the Vectari fleet die from his command post. He had felt the rumble of weapons that could destroy worlds. He knew what humanity was capable of. I want to add something, Ryan said. In the battle for Earth, we destroyed 2,000 ships and killed millions of soldiers. We did it in less than an hour, and we could have done it faster if we wanted to. He looked at the Vectari delegate, a nervous bureaucrat who had been appointed after the Empire's collapse. We did not enjoy it. We did not celebrate. Every life we took weighed on us, even the lives of those who wanted to destroy us. That is the difference between humanity and the Vectari. They killed for pleasure. We killed because we had no choice. Ryan turned to address the full chamber. We are going to put our masks back on now. We are going to smile and negotiate and work with the Confederacy as partners. We are going to be the civilized species we always wanted to be. But the masks come off the moment anyone threatens our people again. He looked directly at the Vectari delegate. Remember that? Amy Chen rose next. She was small, with gray hair and glasses, looking more like a librarian than a military leader. But she had overseen the construction of humanity's secret fleet. She had planned the defense of Earth. She was perhaps the most dangerous person in the room. There is something else you should understand, Amy said. What you saw at Earth was not our full strength. It was not even close. We have reserves you cannot imagine. We have weapons you have never seen. We have plans for every possible scenario, every possible enemy, every possible war. She smiled softly. We hope we never use any of it. We hope today is the beginning of a new era, one where humanity is respected, where our colonies are safe, where we can finally be the peaceful explorers we always wanted to be. But if that hope is wrong, if someone else decides to test us, they will discover that Earth has more surprises in store. Greg Palmer spoke again, his voice gentler now. We do not want to be your rulers. We do not want to be your enemies. We want what we have always wanted, a place among the stars where our children can grow up without fear, a community of species that values peace and cooperation, a galaxy where kindness is not seen as weakness. He looked up at Morith. Help us build that galaxy, Chancellor. Show us that the Confederacy can be better than it was, and we will be the best partners you have ever had. The session ended. Delegates filed out in silence, their minds full of new thoughts, new fears, new possibilities. The humans remained, watching them go. Jack Morrison put his hand on Greg's shoulder. Do you think they understood? Some of them, the smart ones. The ones who can look past their fear and see the opportunity. And the others? Greg sighed. The others will need more time. They have spent centuries believing they were the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Learning that they were wrong will not be easy. Outside the Great Hall, the stars waited. They had witnessed humanity's transformation from overlooked newcomers to galactic power. They had seen the masks come off and the sleeping giant wake up. In the years that followed, the galaxy changed. Species that had bullied others began to think twice. Empires that had expanded through conquest started seeking diplomatic solutions instead. The fear of humanity spread, but so did a strange kind of hope. If the humans could choose peace despite their power, perhaps others could too. On Earth, life went on. Children played in parks. Families had dinner together. Students studied, and workers built, and artists created. They lived their lives knowing that somewhere far above, silent ships watched over them, ready to protect them from any threat. The masks were back on. Humanity smiled and negotiated and played the game of galactic politics. They were polite, friendly, accommodating, but everyone knew the truth now. Everyone remembered the Battle of Earth. Everyone understood that behind the smiles was something ancient and terrible, something that had learned to control itself, but never forgotten how to fight, and in quiet rooms. On distant worlds, alien parents told their children a new bedtime story. A story about a species that had pretended to be weak. A species that had hidden its true nature for 200 years. A species that had finally shown the galaxy what it was capable of. Do not provoke the humans, the story said. They are not what they seem. They are gentle now, but they were not always gentle. And they could become something else again. If you give them a reason, do not give them a reason. The stars glittered overhead, ancient and cold and beautiful, and among them, humanity had finally found its place, not as the weakest species in the galaxy, but as the one that chose not to be the strongest. That, in the end, was what made them truly terrifying and truly magnificent.